The Big Ten and SEC are getting ready to break away from the rest of college football, and we're not even talking about it. And welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, presented and brought to you by FanDuel. We appreciate you being here as we have three enormous topics to talk about. I know this is a Friday show, and not many people listen to the Friday shows. I get it. It's the end of the week and everything, but this is one you are definitely going to want to check out, at least these three segments on YouTube, as I do segment these up typically for you all to check out. So please do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. If you're listening on podcast, 5-star rating and review always helps as well. We're going to do some mailbag stuff in the coming future. So if you have any questions or anything, put them in a 5-star review. I'll always answer those ones first. But really appreciate all the support, everybody that's given out there. We've gotten some super thanks and stuff in the comments, and just really, really appreciate all that, as it does kind of help, make this more than just a hobby. It's something that is actually adding financially. Me and my family we were able to raise enough money through this channel to go to Disney in March, and so we're really, really excited about that, and really thankful for all of you that watched the content this season and made it possible for us to be able to take our two kids there. So little personal stuff there, but just wanted to say thank you before we get into the content. All right, let's go ahead and get into this, as we do have a lot to discuss here. Right now, college football is hitting its breaking point, and the breaking point I'm talking about is the breakaway that the Big Ten and the SEC are trying to do. This is what I believe is the super league that many people have been talking about. Me and Zach have often talked on our shows together about how the Big Ten and the SEC were eventually at one point going to break away and have their own playoff together. We've been talking about this ever since the inception of the show. It's always looked that way, and now it's starting to gain more traction over time. And Aaron Taylor over at the Sports Business Journal did a really good job outlining this. So I want to go through some of the points that he made in his article, talk about them with you. And obviously, he makes really good points over there. So I will link that article in the description of the podcast and here on YouTube. So go check that out and read that if you would like to do so. A lot of people go out there and talk about conference realignment and kind of use the big buzzwords of like expose, this happened, that happened, and message board drama and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, we talk about stuff that happens on message boards on the show because I find it more interesting than the kind of regular college football talk that it's like everybody already has an opinion on. You're just going to yell at me in the comments when I don't agree with you. So I would rather talk about the stuff that maybe less people know about a little bit more. And in this scenario, this is something that I've been talking about for a long time. Aaron Taylor wrote a really good article on, and it's not message board drama. It's not hysteria. This is following basic economics of what the two power players in Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti are trying to do. Now, speaking of Greg Sankey, Aaron brought it up in his article, and I thought it was a fantastic point. Back in 2019, Greg Sankey tweeted this. If you're not watching on YouTube, I'll read it for you. He said, as in parentheses, college football season nears its conclusion, I read a, quote, football book. He's talking about The Club. It's a, English football book. The Club by Josh Robinson and John Klieg is an interesting read on the background and business of the Premier League. Now, if you've read this book, you know exactly what it's about. If you've not, short little synopsis is this is basically how the Premier League broke away and consolidated power to form their own league. Before, they were in a league with much smaller leagues, everything else, or much smaller programs, clubs, all this stuff, and they broke away to create their own larger actually smaller because there was less clubs in it, but it was larger for them because they could kind of do whatever they wanted with it, get away from the old governance. They could keep 100% of the revenue, own their own media rights, do all that good stuff. And Aaron Taylor points it out, and I completely agree with him that this is exactly what college football is doing right now with the Big Ten and the SEC. The Big Ten and the SEC are divided right now. They're not divided, but they are dividing from the rest of college football right now. And you can see it not just in the possibility of them completely dividing in the future, but also just with the way everything is happening. Right now, the Big Ten and the SEC take in about 60% of college football's revenue. and they hold about all of the decision-making power in the sport, which, sounds good, but in that scenario, you're also dragging along conferences like the Big 12, the ACC, the Group of Six, and Notre Dame. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful of those conferences by saying they're dragging them along. It's just you have to consider those conferences as long as you are still a part of the NCAA. Well, the Big Ten and the SEC are already starting to operate in their Super League fashion, where they have separate financial universes for their television deals. The college football playoff access and format is all decided by them. Both Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti have been studying or been involved in kind of pro league experiences, and what they're trying to do typically aligns with a lot of those goals. And when you combine all that with the fact that the NCAA is completely feckless, worthless, they do absolutely nothing, and they are just a terrible entity at this point that isn't even an excuse for anything of relevance, you have the Big Ten and the SEC looking at it and saying, why are we still involved here? Why are we still allowing any type of power or anything, any enforcement from the NCAA when we know they have no power, they have no enforcement? NIL, transfers, employment rules, all of these things the NCAA has dragged their feet on and not actually they can't even get agents figured out. They can't even figure out, should this kid's cousin who is 18 years old be his agent? No, he shouldn't be, but the NCAA can't even figure that out at this point. That's one of the reasons why you saw the House settlement, be what it is, and the House settlement is very much in favor for the Big Ten and the SEC. Primarily, the creation of the CSC. Now, when the House settlement happened, I thought that the CSC would take a primary role immediately in college football. What I did not anticipate is that it happened so that way it could be the new governance of college football. Now, the CSC, the CFP, whatever you want to call it, this is what is being run right now. Essentially, that not exactly, but essentially, when you look at all the stuff, the way it works out, is essentially being run by the conferences. The Big Ten with Tony Petitti, Greg Sankey are both involved in this. And if you read an article by Ross Dellinger just the other day, both Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti want everybody to agree to what the CSC is putting out there, but you have programs in the ACC and the Big 12 that are not agreeing to it. There are some in the Big Ten that are doing that as well, but I think once the Big Ten figures out that it's either jump on board or, get off the boat, they're most likely going to stay on the boat, because it would be, program suicide at that point to just completely say, yeah, we're not doing that, and move on. And so Greg Sankey already threatened for the SEC to break away and do its own thing if the other programs out there were not going to sign the papers that was going to essentially give the CSC all power without these programs or these schools to sue them at all. And so at this point, this new governance that is emerging through the CSC, basically football only rules type of board, anonymous and autonomous operations, separate NIL, agent oversight. Football no longer needs the NCAA when you have the House settlement and the CSC working together. There can be antitrusts and things like that being put in place with the breakaway, because currently under the system with the NCAA, you cannot have that stuff. Yes, we have revenue sharing now. Yes, we have some roster limits and stuff like that, but we are only working with a finite amount of ability to make those things happen. If the Big Ten and the SEC were to break away, they would have much more freedom to be able to go have the antitrust, the roster limits, the contracts, the collective bargaining that is coming out there as well. It's impossible to have that under the current NCAA structure without a myriad of lawsuits coming out. A closed pro style league is the safe legal path for these schools. Now, I do want to make it clear, I'm not advocating for this. I'm not advocating for college football to do a complete flip 180. What I am saying is that this is the way that college football is trending right now. Could things change? Obviously, things have been changing in college football for a while now, but this does look like to be the way that college football is currently going. You just look at the playoff fight, the playoff structure structure and everything that is going on. You're getting the Big Ten and the SEC. They're fighting about what they want, and the ACC and the Big 12. They're just trying to side. They're trying to basically side with the SEC, and the Group of Five just pretty much wants relevance. They just want to be involved. The Group of Six, whatever you want to call it. But this 2026 delay, it seems like it's more positioning to try and distract everybody from what the Big Ten and the SEC are actually trying to do, which is to basically create their own playoff where two leagues of about 20 teams or maybe 24 teams kind of break off and do their own thing. The TV networks would obviously be in favor of this. The TV networks are already not happy that, you have like a G6 team involved in, two G6 teams involved in the playoffs this year. Big 12 and ACC programs typically do not, I say typically, not every program, but typically do not give the same, ratings as maybe some other SEC programs. Some lower tier Big Ten programs are about the same as them, but, the top half of the Big Ten pretty much far outweighs those options there. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at a pro style league eventually forming between the Big Ten and the SEC. I think conference expansion will happen before that goes on. So that way these two leagues can get anywhere, get somewhere between 20 to 24 teams in their league. And then basically once that happens, that's when you will see the Big Ten and the SEC break away. You're going to be looking at schools like Miami, North Carolina, Florida State, Clemson, Virginia, maybe a few in the Big 12. I know Texas Tech would most likely love to be involved in something like this, but Texas Tech is one of the programs that's the biggest issues right now with not signing the paperwork for the House settlement with the CSC. So most likely what's going to happen is we're going to get the 16-team playoff here at some point. We might get conference play-in games, something like that going on. And then in about 2027, 2028, I think that's when you'll really see the transition start to happen for college football. The CSC will kind of become the de facto governance body. The conferences will start to act more like pro divisions, like the NFL or the NFC and the AFC type of deal, rather than the Big Ten, or rather than four different conferences, consolidate it down to just two, and then you pretty much have the divide that we have now with the North and the South. You already basically have that with the East and the West that you're getting in the AFC and the NFC there. So. And then I think since media rights will be restructured for both conferences and it'll happen a little bit sooner than this for the Big Ten, but 2031, I think, would be the target date for this to happen, or the target year for this to happen. I think you're going to see about 20 to 40 programs break away. Depends on how many the Big Ten and the SEC add. The Big Ten currently at 18, the SEC currently at 16. Depending on how many they add, I think you're going to see these two conferences break away and basically create their own thing. Look, the SEC does not have enough relevance to become their own league where they are everything all by themselves. The Big Ten doesn't have enough relevance to do that. But together, they make up the majority, I guess we would say. I would say almost 3/4 of fandom in all of college football. And if you put in who's the most passionate fans and stuff like that, it's probably even more than 3/4 at this point. So I think this is where we are heading in college football. I'm not saying I like it. I'm not saying I don't like it. I think it's going to be very different. And I do think there will be some positives to it, but there could be some, there's going to be negatives to this as well. Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section. Do you see this kind of, thing happening here? It's the economics of itself more than anything else. I know many people are going to get in the comments and say, well, I don't want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. And I get that. There'll be a time and place to talk about what we want and don't want, but just where do you see college football moving from here? Let me know down in the comments. This is a very interesting time for college football to figure out what's going on. The Big Ten and the SEC pretty much in charge of it all. And I think that we're going to get some more information in the coming years to see what happens here. But if things continue to trend the way they are trending, I think we're going to see a breakaway with the Big Ten and the SEC in the coming future. And it's not just hysteria. It's not just message board rumors. It's economics. It's the way things are, trending right now. It's consolidation, bring the money together, make more money. It honestly just works out, which, again, I don't want it to happen, but it's the way things are going right now. So stick with us. Gonna talk about Ohio State and some of their coaching rumors right after this. Well, we talked about Ohio State and how they had a little bit of drama going on with their coaching staff, and it feels like things are only getting slightly more dramatic, but at the same time, slightly less believable that they are as dramatic as they are. So, very interesting stuff here coming out from my guy, Mike Washman. So on Thursday, my guy Mike tweeted this out. Here, we'll point to it this way. Been on a couple shows with Mike over there at College Football with Sam. Like Mike, he does a good job. He covers Ohio State locally, and so he's got some good info over there. And a long time writer, guy who covers. He's got some good inside sources over there, and so he decided to share some of these in his tweet. And he decided to hit on the three coaching positions in Ohio State right now, the three main positions. So he has a very short note on the offensive coordinator. So let's go ahead and start with that. Mike says that the interviews for the offensive coordinator will begin next week. This is January 15th, Thursday, January 15th right now. So sounds like next week, in the, what is that, January 19th to probably 24th, 23rd. I'm making up dates here off the top of my head, but probably sounds like sometime next week. And this would make sense. I mean, Ohio State with all the chaos of the portal and everything else, and it looks like they're really starting to take into shape what they're going to do on with their roster. They let a number of guys go off the team this year, and then now they've brought in a number of guys who have more experience. Still some young guys, but guys with more playing experience that they seem to maybe believe in a little bit more. From all the indications out there, sounds like Ohio State is kind of on maybe about three different guys for the position. We don't have a whole lot of information on it. Mike didn't share a whole lot here. The three names that I feel like have been, discussed the most and maybe hinted at the most are Brian Daboll, Todd Monken, and Garrett Riley. So Brian Daboll, obviously former New York Giants head coach. He was the Alabama offensive coordinator in 2017. Successful there at Alabama, not so successful with the Giants, but as you've seen from Matt Patricia, you don't necessarily have to be a successful head coach in the NFL to be a successful coordinator in college football. Get to Matt Patricia here in a minute. But Brian Daboll, I don't know if he's actually the guy that they're going to go after. It sounds like from the media and the kind of spin that they've done is that he's been kind of the model of who they want to go after. Not necessarily him, but kind of the model. I think other guys that fit into that model might be like a Cliff Kingsbury, but I don't see him going to Ohio State. He doesn't really jive with what Ryan Day wants to do and stuff. But Brian Daboll makes sense. I mean, had a really good offense at the Bills when he was there. He quarterback. He's done well with quarterbacks, and so he could come in and be something like that. We'll see what happens here. But the other one that makes a whole lot of sense for Ohio State is Todd Monken. Todd Monken, he did interview for. He is expected to interview for multiple offensive coordinator positions in the NFL. So he would probably be the least likely, just from the fact that it sounds like he possibly could make his way on over to one of these NFL jobs. But as you see, it's harder to sometimes get more notable thoughts about you in the NFL as an offensive coordinator, especially with injuries and working through all that stuff. It's it's possible that Todd Monken can look and see what Chip Kelly got in 1 year at Ohio State, essentially $6 million, and say, well, that worked out for him. I'll try my hand and go see if I can do that too. And then Garrett Riley being the last one, as he's seen as kind of like a buy low candidate a little bit, has a lot of upside with bringing TCU to the national championship game when he was the offensive coordinator there. But essentially what they want to do more than anything else is they want to bring in somebody who's an outside hire. They do not want to, have somebody that Ryan Day kind of has to hold the hand of with the offense or anything like that. They want to bring in somebody so Ryan Day can be that CEO like he was when Ohio State won the national championship last year. So, or in 2024, it's 2026 now. So we'll see how that goes. The other note that Mike shares on here is that there's no word on if Matt Patricia is staying or leaving for the NFL yet. The flood of defensive players coming in gives me confidence, as it sounds like it does here with Mike as well. I feel good about Matt Patricia staying, but at the same time, there's still eight head coaching positions open in the NFL. And while I don't think Matt Patricia is going to be considered for any of those, I do think that guys who get hired could possibly reach out to Matt Patricia and want him to maybe be their defensive coordinator. Brian Flores, the current Vikings defensive coordinator, he's going to have interest from guys like, or he has had interest from what I've read of places like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Tennessee Titans. You know, he has strong ties to the Belichick tree, and he actually spent nearly a decade in New England with Matt Patricia there. So there could be some strong ties there. If Brian Flores gets a head coaching job, that would honestly probably be one of the ones I'd be the most concerned about. Jeff Hafley is another one. He's the Packers defensive coordinator. And Packers head coach Matt LaFleur publicly stated that he expects Hafley to land a head coaching job this cycle. So wherever that might be, I think he's interviewed with the Falcons. I think the Steelers have shown a little bit of interest as well. He had a brief stint with the Patriots right after Patricia left in 2018 and 19, right before he came to Ohio State. So he was under Belichick there. There could be a little bit of familiarity, but I would not be too concerned about Hafley hiring away Patricia. He might try to go with somebody else. And then the last one, this is a very much so kind of like sleeper candidate here that might hire him away, and that is Mike Vrabel over there at the Patriots. Now, the Patriots, they are still in the playoffs. They are playing the Texans on Sunday, and in fact, on FanDuel, Patriots are favored by 3 points in that one. So it looks like they will most likely win, but you never know. It is the NFL playoffs. Stranger things have happened. And their defensive coordinator, Terrell Williams, he did suffer from prostate cancer this season and had to miss some time in the NFL. If things do not go well with Terrell Williams and maybe he retires or something like that, I'm not saying not go well, like anything bad happens to him. God forbid that happen. But, maybe he decides to retire. Maybe he decides to hang it up or just leave the program for a little bit or whatever it might be. Mike Vrabel would definitely be somebody who would be interested in Matt Patricia from his time with the Patriots and everything else. I don't think that will happen. It sounds like every indication is that Terrell Williams will return as the defensive coordinator at the Patriots, and especially this season with them getting to the playoffs and having such a high seed and everything. And then the final one is Ryan Day, and the rumor that Mike put out there that Ryan Day, he had the Ravens reach out to them about their head coach vacancy. So Ryan Day, Ravens connection in this one. Could this be where Ryan Day goes? Ryan Day has long been rumored somebody that would like to get back to the NFL. He, made a lot of time as a quarterback coach in the NFL, spent some time with Chip Kelly there, and has always kind of been dubbed more of an NFL coach than a college coach. And it's worked out for him here recently at Ohio State, especially with the NFLization of the sport happening. So I do think that at some point Ryan Day will go off to the NFL, especially if things in college football are not fixed sooner than later, with how crazy everything is getting. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. Number one, I don't think there's enough demand for him to be offered a bunch of jobs. And number two, I just don't think Ryan Day's ready for that yet. I think he wants to continue to be at Ohio State, be there while his family grows and everything, or not grows, but as his family continues to move on and his son goes off to college and everything else. So we'll see what happens, but it feels like, even if this is true, what Mike is saying here, that the Ravens have contacted Ryan Day, or at least contacted Ryan Day's agent, I would assume, then I do think that this is most likely a scenario where it doesn't happen. Only one team being mentioned here. Probably not going to happen this year, but I would expect Ryan Day to move on and be a head coach in the NFL someday. So let me know what you think down in the comments section. If you're a Ohio State fan, are you nervous? Are you itching about this? Or are you feeling pretty good? You're like, no, Ryan Day, he's sticking around. Matt Patricia, he's sticking around. I tend to think that Matt Patricia and Ryan Day will both stick around, but you never know. Matt Patricia's had a good year in college football. I think if they excelled a little bit more, maybe if they got to the national championship or won the national championship, maybe things would be different. But the fact that they got knocked in the first game there against Miami feels like those guys are going to come back and maybe give it another shot, and we'll see what happens after next season. So stick with us. Be right back after this. National championship is still coming up. Indiana favored in this one by 8.5 over Miami on FanDuel. Really looking forward to this game. Not too long ago, we did a bit of a film breakdown of some of the stuff that Indiana's defensive line is going to be, trying to do against the not oversized, the much bigger Miami. Always saying oversized makes it sound like they're too big. They're not too big. The much bigger Miami offensive line. And then in this one, I'm not going to talk about the trenches as much as I'm going to talk about how Indiana's offense has looked so good here in the college football playoffs. We have 3 different sequences from the Oregon game and 1 from the Alabama game that I want to reference here. And one of the reasons why I'm talking about sequences in this video rather than, just specific plays is because one of the things that I feel like Indiana makes them so unstoppable on offense is not necessarily just because of their execution. Any podcaster you hear out there is going to talk about, Indiana's execution. They just execute better than everybody else. And while that's true, yes, Indiana excels at executing over tons of other teams. Okay, that is obviously true that happens. But I also want to point out that it's the sequencing of the offense. Mike Shanahan does not get nearly enough credit for his play calling and the different variations that they utilize in their offense to keep the defense on their toes. And I think that's going to be super important in this game against Miami, as if you let Miami just pin their ears back and come after Fernando Mendoza, he's going to be in trouble. But when you utilize multiple different running schemes, RPO, drop back, deep passes, fade routes, I think this is really going to be difficult for Miami to stop. Not saying they can't, because obviously Miami has a fantastic defense, and they've shown that here in the playoffs. But I do think that there are some aspects of this offense that are not getting talked about enough that I want to reference in this one. So Indiana, their yards per play is top 10 in the country. Miami's yards per play allowed, so their defense is top 15 in the country. Both of them were higher before the postseason began, but they're obviously playing better competition here. So they both dropped a little bit, but fantastic offense, fantastic defense. We're going to get into this and check some of this stuff out. So let me bring up my stuff here. All right. Our first one here, this is the second drive, I believe, of the Indiana-Oregon game, and we're going to look at 5 plays here in a row. So we're going to go through these a little bit quicker because, I don't want to be here the entire time. And by the way, if you're listening on podcast for this, this is something you definitely want to go over to YouTube and check out. I'll do my best to explain what's going on here on podcast, but this is something you'll want to check out on YouTube, going over to the Big Ten Huddle on YouTube to get this stuff, and you'll see the graphic that'll look like film stuff. You'll know. So, all right. So first play here, 1st and 10, you're going to see them run the ball. Indiana, you're going to see a zone scheme here. So the zone scheme means that they are moving the offensive line to the side. The running back is going, zone blocking is essentially what they're doing here. And the running back is going to hit the crease and go. When he finds it, he does. Nice, good gain there for the running back. And then here's the next play. 2nd and 4. This time we're going to see gap scheme, and we're going to see them gash Oregon a little bit in this one on 2nd and 4. So they just did zone scheme run defense in this one. Now we're going to see some gap scheme. You see how the tight end gets there, fits in the middle, and moves out. One of the things that I don't think is talked about enough here is look how this defense begins. You have both linebackers over the defensive line. You have a safety up there as well. You see the motion from Indiana, and that actually requires the linebacker to go outside. That's going to change his gap he's going with, and then that's going to bring the other linebacker out here to the slot. That's going to completely open up this area behind the line of scrimmage, and it doesn't look like there's an audible or anything faced here. It looks like Fernando Mendoza just sees it, and the play is called perfectly in this situation because, again, zone scheme, you're going to go side to side, and Indiana had ran a lot of zone scheme up until this point, but here they counter and go with the gap scheme, pulling the tight end to go up the middle, and the tight end honestly runs through the hole just about as clear as the running back does. So he hits the hole, gets to the second level, blocks Dylan Thieneman. Very nice gain for Indiana there, and now they're cooking. They're in business. 1st and 10. All right, 1st and 10 here. This is going to be a zone stretch, kind of stretch run here to the side. You're going to get both guards pulling, okay? Let's go back and see this here. You're going to see both guards on the side of the center are going to pull. Well, the center is going to pull, I apologize, and Carter Smith is going to pull. And the center, Pat Coogan, who's a fantastic center, by the way, he's going to be out in front. And when you have this center like this out in front, there is nobody out there. This looks like 6 easy. The DB actually makes a pretty good play, just scooting enough there, and then Oregon is able to push him out just in time. But it's not going to matter because Indiana's still going to score here. So 1st and 10. Move on here. And this is going to be a duo scheme, but the problem is going to be, let's just go ahead and watch from this angle. The problem is going to be this guy right here. They're just going to completely whiff on him, and he's going to come into the backfield completely free. What I would guess, we don't always know what the offense is doing here. What I would guess is that with this duo blocking scheme, because you see the center here, he's going to hit double team there and then try to get to the second level. But the second level never matters because the defensive lineman got free here and gobbled the running back back in the backfield there. Just a miss block, poor execution, whatever it might be. While Indiana is fantastic at executing, they are not they are human. They are human. So 2nd and 8, you're going to see a loaded box here. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They have 9 guys in the box here. Indiana is going to come out. Looks like they have an extra offensive lineman over here. They have the tight end, 1 running back in the shotgun formation. Oregon is definitely thinking run on this one. And while it would make sense for the run to happen on this one, Indiana is going to go to the outside here to Omar Cooper Jr. Watch Omar Cooper Jr. He's going to hit him and then go outside. Fantastic route there. It was not too fancy. And by that time, Fernando Mendoza knows I got 9 guys in the box here. I'm going to trust my guy. And it's just a perfect pass to Omar Cooper Jr., who has a fantastic catch there to get it all. So again, you can see 6 offensive linemen here with a tight end, Riley Nowakowski, who's actually been an unheralded, one of the best players in the postseason for Indiana. It's really started against Ohio State. He played well in the season too, don't get me wrong, but really started against Ohio State and has been playing fantastic. All right, let's go to the next one here. Go to 10:26. And here we go. I think it's next one here. Yeah, so 1st and 10, Indiana going to start here. Let's check this out. So I got to pause here for a second. Indiana on the last drive, they got a turnover. That was the fumble by Dante Moore. They were able to get, but on the drive before that, they were in a similar spot here, and Fernando Mendoza got sacked really bad. It was one where his offensive line was running to him. He bobbled the ball. It went up in the air. It was just a bad situation. You could tell the Oregon pass rush was starting to get to Indiana. So what does Mike Shanahan decide to do here? Well, he's going to go with play action and not playing. There we go. He's going to go with play action. And he's actually going to move the pocket a little bit. It's not crazy, but it is enough to give a deep drop here to Fernando Mendoza. On 1st and 10, they've ran it so much they're thinking maybe we can get these guys here on the deep routes, but they cannot. And Oregon gets good pressure with their defensive line. They have a ton of guys in coverage. Just a bad situation and a bit of an errant throw, but the running back wasn't going anywhere with that anyway. So next one is 2nd and 10. And this is where you're going to see Surratt make a move at the line of scrimmage. So look down here. Surratt is going to make a move. If you see that the DB is lined up straight on Surratt there, he's going to get a back shoulder throw, which means he needs to get outside leverage on this defensive back. He hits an easy move, beep, right there, gets to the outside, gets free. And that was one of the biggest things about that was he was able to get that outside leverage. All Fernando Mendoza has to do is put it on that back shoulder. But Elijah Surratt, he is so good. He's not going to give away. I'm going for the shoulder here until right at the very end. Watch how late. I mean, he is still turned toward the Oregon defender. Boom, right there. He turns as the ball is getting to him. As much as that is an excellent throw by Fernando Mendoza, that is also excellent body control by Elijah Surratt. And it's one of the reasons that makes these back shoulder throws that they do almost unstoppable. All right. So remember, that was a quick throw because of the issue they've had in pass protection here lately. Now they're going to go to the RPO and move the pocket once again. 1st and 10. Boom. play action, RPO, whatever you want to call it, completely move the pocket. Oregon's aggressive defensive line completely moves with them. Fernando Mendoza is out here all on his own. And now you just have the option. Am I going to run it? Am I going to pass it to Cooper Jr. here? I'm sorry, that was EJ Williams last time. That was not Cooper Jr. I'm going to throw it to Cooper Jr., let him get a little bit of yards, move on. And maybe it wasn't the biggest play in the world, but it was great sequencing that allowed Indiana to get away from the strong pass rush of Oregon a little bit. And you're going to see that here in this next play as well, as this is where Charlie Becker gets the touchdown pass on 2nd and 3. Indiana, they've been running it. You would think in this 2nd and 3 situation, they would run it again, but they just passed it and they're going to keep going with it. Watch Charlie Becker up here at the top of the screen. What he's going to do, beep. Similar to Elijah Surratt, he's going to get outside leverage, and these guys know about the back shoulder, and so that's why they're pressing up a little bit more and thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to get hit with the back shoulder. Problem is, buddy, you also don't have a safety over the top, and so here, Fernando Mendoza sees it. He has just enough time, not just enough. I mean, he has plenty of time back there, but Oregon's defensive line is also not coming in as hot as they were. It's going to be a great throw. Charlie Becker, the long strides, the speed, he's going to go up, get the ball, come down with it. Holy cow, Charlie Becker is really good. He's only a sophomore, folks. He's only a sophomore. All right, next drive for Indiana here. Let's go to, there we go. All right, so this is the next drive for Indiana. Mendoza is going to keep the ball here, and it's going to be one more way to kind of show the threat of his legs. I mean, if you watch all of these scoring drives I'm showing you, they are doing something different. They're going deep. They're running RPO. They're running multiple gap, zone type of schemes. Whatever you want to run, they're running all of this and just keeping the Oregon defense completely off balance. And this is a good Oregon defense. I know, not everybody's the biggest fan of Taj Lapoy, but this is a good Oregon defense. And this one, they actually did stop Fernando Mendoza, right? He only got 2 yards on this play. It's going to be 2nd and 8 here, but this was huge for them. Now watch this. This is where the running of Mendoza continues to pay off, and it starts to pay off in the running game here, and the RPO is paying off here as well. Watch the defensive line from Oregon. Mendoza's going to hand the ball off here, and the defensive line from Oregon, they're not coming in as hot as they once were. And so Indiana is actually going to be able to move them almost completely out of the way, and just a nice cutback from the running back here for Indiana, and he's going to find himself with just a little bit of green, not a ton. It's going to be 3rd and 4, but if you know anything about Kirk Zanetti, he likes these 3rd and 5 or less situations. It's one of the reasons why they have the highest 3rd down conversion rate in the country out there. All right. Third and 4 here. This is the D'Angelo Pons play. He's lined up there in the slot, and they're not paying a whole lot of attention to him, but this is where he's going to come into the backfield. This was actually a similar play that Ohio State ran for Jeremiah Smith in the College Football Playoff Championship game last year. Really nice design. I'm sure Mike Shanahan probably saw that and said, we got to get D'Angelo Pons out there. So, and on this play, everybody's going to see D'Angelo Pons' speed. I want you to look at this slant up here by EJ Williams. A fantastic job of Fernando Mendoza, yes, getting the ball out. Yes, D'Angelo Pons' speed, but also he is going to chip the defensive back for Oregon just enough that Pons is going to be able to get out there. Now, would Pons have gotten out there with his speed anyway? Yeah, probably, but it's the continued team effort together. It wasn't a huge block. It wasn't like he cracked him or anything like that, but he did chip him just enough to be able to slow him up and get Pons the opportunity to get the first down on 3rd and 4. Again, multiple different ways. Mike Shanahan is in his bag right now, using anything and everything that he can to get the first down, to keep the ball moving down the field. Now, it doesn't always work, right? Here we go. The next one is where it doesn't work. 1st and 8 here. This is another area where it does work. Yes, Oregon has all these guys in the defensive line, but guess what? If you block the right way, you can get by those defensive linemen, and that's exactly what they do here. Or Indiana gets good push. They're able to climb to the 2nd level. You see that offensive lineman there climbing to the 2nd level. Let's go ahead and watch it from this angle. I believe that's Benson, 67. I may be incorrect. I apologize if I am. But he's going to duo, double team, boop, get to the second level, and it's going to just create a great opportunity there. You got 2nd and 1. It's on the goal line here. And credit to Oregon on this situation. They're going to do a great job of stopping this one. And Indiana is going to be 3rd and 2 here. Again, great job by Oregon. They snuffed it out. They knew it was coming, and they did a good job of holding the line there. So Indiana is going to be 3rd and 2. The problem is on 3rd and 2, you got a really good pass game as well. Look at this one here. So down here at the bottom, you're going to see 2 guys down there. And what Indiana loves to do in these type of situations is they love to run some mesh concepts or some concepts to kind of pick some other DBs. Oregon knows this. And so what Oregon is going to do is they're going to pass off with their DBs. But Indiana knows they're going to do that. So watch here. You're going to see the 2 wide receivers here at the bottom of the screen. They're Surratt here is going to run a slant in, and you're going to see the pick essentially, but he's not actually blocking the other DB. He's just, I'm going to run a curl right here, right where it happens to be. And so they pass off. But the issue is in the pass off, you have to let the receiver keep coming to you for this DB here. The issue is Surratt doesn't keep coming because he knows it's going to happen. So he almost runs a little bit of an option route there. And so when you have these type of option routes embedded into your offense, because not only are you saying, well, we're going to pick this guy, but also if we do pick this guy or if they pass off, we're going to have the option here. And Mendoza knows it from the beginning. Look at when Mendoza throws this ball. He sees both of those 2 cornerbacks sitting back, staying at the line. As soon as Mendoza sees him step back to go with Elijah Surratt here, he says, I'm going to put it right on you. You're going to get the ball, and you're going to fall into the end zone. Great play by Mendoza. Great play by Elijah Surratt there. All right, we're going to have to be a little bit quicker with this next one. This one is Alabama. All right, give me a second here, guys. All right, this is the Indiana-Alabama game. Again, pay attention to the sequencing, the multiple different ways they can utilize Indiana. Mike Shanahan can use their offense to be able to score. So I do want to point out before we get into this, last time I did a video like this, I had a whole bunch of Miami fans in the comment section, and we appreciate you being here, Miami fans. Thank you for showing up and watching the content. But one thing that I did not do a great job of saying in last video, I'm not saying that Miami is Oregon or Alabama or anything like that. I'm just trying to show you what Indiana has done that's made them so successful. And Miami certainly can stop it. It's very difficult to stop because of how good Mike Shanahan is and his scheme and everything that he utilizes. But I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, Miami's just, the same defense as Alabama. I'm just pointing out to you what Indiana runs here. So this is not me saying, oh, Indiana's going to go crazy on Miami and they're going to put up 50 points or anything like that. I'm just saying this is what Indiana does a lot of the time. And because I can't show you Big Ten tape, I'm going to show you mostly playoff tape here. So, all right. So one sequence here and then we'll be done against Alabama. So in this situation, you're going to see Fernando Mendoza. Alabama's going to get pressure on him. He is going to use his legs and make something. Whoops, I forgot the full game speed. Let me slow it down a little bit. YouTube's mad if I use full game speed. All right. So they're going to get pressure up the middle here. Mendoza sees it, and this is one of the things that makes him so dangerous. And everybody talks about it, but it's not just that he knows when to leave the pocket. It's the speed that he has to get outside the pocket as well, and the strength there. Yes, I know he was being blocked. The defensive end there was being blocked at the same time, but the strength to get around that, he's going to get to the outside. He's there's going to be holding on this play, so it's not going to matter. It's going to be 1st and 20 coming up, but still, just the ability to do this and to be able to get out there. I mean, you can see Carter Smith there; he's holding like crazy, but still, he was able to get around there. And you see Mendoza utilizing his legs, and that is going to be crucial for this next play. When watch. Alabama's going to be coming after him. It's 1st and 20. Alabama's going to be aggressive here. They're going to send the corner blitz on this one. But what Mendoza's going to do is he's going to utilize the RPO play action. And because of that, you're going to get all of these linebackers over here stop and say, We got to stay in our gaps here. We got to know the threat of Mendoza with running the ball. And meanwhile, gap duo type of scheme here with the run blocking and being able to climb to the second level, it works perfectly. And then look, I want to give all the credit to Indiana there is, but this is just terrible tackling by Alabama. Alabama is a terrible tackling team. They are not disciplined, and give Indiana a ton of credit. Don't get me wrong, but Alabama, boy, do they suck. Not in every area, but at tackling, they are just they are not good. Not very disciplined team either. And credit to Indiana, they utilize that to their advantage. All right, let's watch this from this angle really fast. You're gonna see 74 here get to the second level. Yep. Duo, boom, gonna hit the double team, get to the second level, takes care of that. It's a running back on a safety, and that's Bray Hubbard right there, number 18, I believe. And he's actually probably one of the best players on the defense for Alabama, but Black still is able to get by. Or no, that's Himby, sorry, number 1. Himby still able to get by him, and Himby's got a lot of speed on him too. So, all right, so then you're gonna get to 1st and 10 here, and you're gonna hit Duo again with the excellent ability of Himby being able to find a crease here. Now, you're going to say, well, JR, this was only 2 yards. How excellent can it be? Watch from this angle, okay? Watch from this angle here. You're going to see another duo kind of blocking scheme here a little bit. They're not pulling anybody. They're just kind of running it with the double teams and stuff, but it is going to open. Boom. I mean, you got Hubbard there. You got a linebacker there, but he's going to find that crease, hit that crease, go straight into it, and it may look like not all that much, but that's 2 yards. That's going to keep you somewhat on schedule for Indiana. It's going to be huge. So 2nd and 8, they're going to this is a play that's really important because Alabama actually does an excellent job here. Watch Becker here in the slot. He's going to go on his route, hit the outside. This is what Indiana loves to do. Last year, they loved to throw it over the middle with Curtis Rourke. This year, they go to the outside a whole lot more, and Alabama does their homework. They see it coming. Watch, this Alabama defensive back right here is actually going to get outside leverage as the play goes because he knows they're going to go to the outside. He also has safety help on the inside over the middle, and so he's going to commit to the outside and be ready for it. But Mike Shanahan's going to see that, and you're going to see what's happened to the next play here. And that's one of the reasons why this pass from Mendoza, well, it's not a bad pass. I mean, it's right there on him. The outside leverage of the Alabama DB is going to set him up perfectly to be able to stop that. I don't know if we get a very good angle from this one. You're not going to see the outside leverage happen, but you are going to see a good break on the ball. I mean, that ball was thrown, just moments before that, and the Alabama DB is already right there. So great job by Alabama. The problem is Mike Shanahan, he's pretty smart too. Watch, same thing, Charlie Becker, but instead of going outside, he's going to go inside. This is 3rd and 8. And another thing that you have to know about Alabama and their defensive coordinator, Kane Womack, is Kane Womack loves to bring the pressure on 3rd down, especially 3rd and long. And in this situation, look at all those guys over there. They're going to bring the pressure. All of them coming. They got one-on-one, man-on-man on the outside. You see the DB down here against Charlie Becker. He's going to go out. He's going to get outside leverage again. The problem is Becker, that jab right there, that little jab right there did just enough to put the DB on his back heels. He already had outside leverage, but to keep him on his back heels, and then he is wide open over the middle. Bit of a high throw by Mendoza. Thankfully, Charlie Becker's got that length on him. Makes it easy to look like a really accurate passer when you got some of the longest and tallest. I'm not saying Ferdinand Mendoza isn't accurate. Obviously, he is, but just Charlie Becker's insane. My gosh, he's going to continue to be so good for Indiana. Touchdown there. I mean, I don't know what else to say. You watch the tape of this Indiana team, and they are able to score on you in so many different ways. They are disciplined. They execute very well. But with the amount of things that they're running, and they're not running crazy stuff or anything. I mean, this isn't like the craziest NFL stuff in the world you're going to see, but with them going from scheme to play to different things the way they do, it's fantastic. The execution, the play calling by Mike Shanahan out there is really impressive. So that's what we got for you for the Indiana film. Let me know what you think of the film. Indiana's offense, are they unstoppable? If you're a Miami fan, what do you like best about this offense? I assume the Indiana or the Miami fans have done their homework. What part about this offense do you find to be the most worrisome, or whatever it might be? And Indiana fans, is there anything about the Miami defense that you think is worrisome? Would love to get you guys' thoughts in the comments below. So thank you so much for being here at the Big Ten Huddle with me, JR. We had so much fun in this episode with you, and we'll have fun again in our next episode Sunday night. Me and Zach give our predictions for this game, and then Monday, directly after the game, we will be going live on this channel to recap it, talk about it, and we're looking forward to see you there. So thank you so much. Like, subscribe, 5-star rating on podcast always helps us out. We appreciate it. Have a good one.